Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Joaquin Phoenix sketch. I am your flamboyant florist, Peter Stockbridge. Uh, and yes, here we are once again. So yeah, there's a lot going on now, so we're cracking on with finishing off his hair. So once again, we're just sweeping over with a basic shade, and we're going to go back through it all with deeper colors, and then do some of the shallow work. We're going to sort of get it to a happy point where it is on the left, or as close approximation to such before we crack on. As I've mentioned before in one of my previous videos, is that I'm left-handed, so I kind of, to avoid any sort of potential smudging, I do really work from right to left. And I always find that it's important to just, have a goal in mind and just keep going, just crack on, and just trust in yourself, really. When you're choosing colours, you're choosing them as a sort of, you're trying to get the closest possible match, of course, and sometimes that's not always possible. So really, there is a lot of room for shading and mixing colours in. As long as you do it right and you do it in the right order, then you can get some really nice results. So this is kind of like dry painting almost. And hair can be quite tricky to get looking realistic. It's quite easy to sort of be a bit lazy with it. And there's a lot of techniques involved with getting hair looking perfect and stuff, and I doubt that the technique that I'm employing at the moment is anywhere near what professionals do. I don't watch other people's art videos or tutorials. I've never read an art book. I'm completely self-taught, in as much as I just pick up a pencil and just learn it all myself. I make the mistakes and I, forge my own path, as it were. And so we're looking at sort of 7 years really now that I've been doing this. It all started in 2014, in the summer of 2014, and I was feeling quite low. I was pretty much at my lowest point back then, and I needed something to sort of, I needed something to sort of be excited about. I had gone through so long wondering what I wanted to do with my life, and I could never really decide. I could never focus on anything. And I happened to wander into a library, and I was flicking through some of the comics, and I came across a graphic novel called Kingdom Come, and I sat there and I read through it, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was really the sort of art that captured me, really. It was such a beautiful style, and it was done by a chap called Alex Ross, and he really was my mentor for those following few years. Not that he taught me anything. I saw his work as a benchmark, and I really wanted to be able to do that. I remember thinking back then that I wish I could get to that point of being able to do stuff like this. I mean, doing something from scratch is really, really, I would say that's kind of like the upper limit of perfection of being a proper good artist. And oh yeah, say hello to my cat. That's Zuri being curious about things. Yeah. But yeah, to be a sort of a good artist is it takes a lot of work, really. She's wondering what I'm doing. So at this stage, yeah, I'm really just sort of generally mapping things out, and I'm going to go back through with it and get some more definition in there. Yes, it's a black pencil, sorry. We've only had her a few weeks, and she's a beautiful little tearaway. She's all sweetness and light one minute, but she can be a little brute. She likes biting fingernails and fingers and stuff. And she'll quite happily help you eat your toast in the morning. And she's pretty much a bit of a scavenger. She doesn't like carrots though. She'll have a bit of cauliflower, but she doesn't like carrots. So yeah, I should really say that I did a commentary for this episode last night, and my software didn't save it, and I'm really, really irritated about that. So this episode is delayed by one day because I wanted to do some commentary for it. I think I'm just deciding on what colour I'm going to do next. It's kind of tricky when you're trying to match up a colour that's on the screen, and I always find it quite hard to sort of see because of the brightness of the screen versus the brightness in the room, etc. It's hard to describe, but so I'm making these definitions now, going in with blocking in some of the deep shades, keeping an eye on the original source image as I go. But because, I've done this so many times now, and you do get to a point where you are able to sort of, go your own way with it, as well as, keeping it accurate. I'll always say that this is a therapeutic thing to do. It calms the mind. It kind of switches it off, especially if you're heavily invested in trying to get something right, and you do spend your time just not really thinking about anything else apart from getting the accuracy of everything. Yeah, so this whole project was staring at me in the face for a long time, and slowly eating away at my psyche. So I'm just literally just get it done. So I'm making sure the muscle just above his eye is accurate there. And just mapping in some of the imperfections on the right side as well. We are fast approaching the stage where we're going to need to be working on the face makeup more. And I'm starting out with a grey, it's really just sort of a tool to start working on the wrinkles and the sort of the flaky sort of aspect of his white makeup here. I just want to make sure that I'm going to be getting it all down in the right areas. Always checking back with the source image. And yes, this is double the speed, by the way. And it's a post-recording commentary, so I film about an hour's worth and I sort of speed it up by 200% so that I can sort of accurately explain what's happening in a relatively decent amount of time. So if you're looking to get into art, particularly sort of pencil work, then I always find that rather than picking up a series of tutorial videos, you really are best off just picking up a pencil, piece of paper, and just going it alone. I mean, either going it alone or watching something like this, where the host is giving a few hints and tips here and there, but you're actually experimenting on your own. That's what I would say. A lot of people really get put off by the first stage, which is getting the measuring right. But I've demonstrated that there is a way of getting that particular stage done without even thinking about it in a relatively quick space of time, and that's tracing. And there's a number of different ways that you can do to trace. A lot of people say that it's cheating, and if you're that bothered by it, do it without it, just to prove to yourself that you can do it if you want to. I mean, I did so. But largely it's just like, if you can do it without it, then you might as well just do it, because you can do it anyway, but you don't have the time. What I do is I just put a piece of paper up on my screen, just trace out the outline. That's it, really. That's the first step done. Takes 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so we're committing now to some of the shadows of his jawline. And for the most part, it's quite rough, the makeup. So I am literally just sort of being quite brazen here. Very scaly. He's sort of moved his face around and his expression quite a lot, and his makeup has started to sort of give away a little bit. So I'm going to try and work all that in as well. It's a gradual process, of course it is, but it's a process nonetheless, and eventually you will come to the point of completion, and you'll be happy, you know. So far, it's going okay. It's progressing quite nicely, and long may that continue, really. There is quite a lot of dark shading to come still. You'll see that his hair on the right side should really go a bit darker towards the back and sort of behind his ear as well. So I will be going over that again, I think, at some point, probably in between episodes, because that's, you know, it's just a case of me going over it with my big smudge stick until I'm happy. So that's not really a process that needs to be filmed and documented, so to speak. So I may well just miss that out. So now I'm committing to the blue makeup. There's some deep shade elements to it, so I'm just grabbing a deep blue now, just going over those sort of particular points. It's looking a lot better already. You know, you're making decisions on where the deep parts of the colour go in order to make it look a bit more realistic, because there is a certain amount of translation here, and you want to sort of make sure that it looks all right. I've noticed that the borderline for this particular shape isn't sort of straight at all. It's very sort of blotchy. So committing to the underside of the eyebrows there. So this series is really the first series, the Joker series, that is on my channel, and really all it is a showcase of every screen actor who's portrayed the Joker. And so far I've done Cesar Romero, I've done Jack Nicholson's, I've done Heath Ledger's, and Jared Leto's. So the fifth and final one is Joaquin Phoenix, and this is only sort of counting the movies. In terms of new people playing the Joker, it's highly unlikely that I'll be adding to this series, because you'll find that a lot of the series that I'm going to be introducing from here on out will be based on classic movies, like, you know, loved movies, you know, not new ones. I mean, there has to have been some time passed, and a certain amount of historical prestige to the film. So I'll tend to go for classics, 80s, 90s, you know, well-established movies, not necessarily new ones. And although Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is relatively new, for me, it was such an impressive film that I've decided to add him on. It was just so good, this movie. It was so good. It highlighted so much. And I hope, really genuinely hope, something gets done about it at some point. So I'm just trying to sort of work out the seam here. Hair seams can be quite tricky to do. And, I'm reluctant to sort of commit to anything beyond the basics for the hair at the moment. Okay. Just double checking stuff here. I think there is a little bit of color in the white makeup actually, now that I look at it. It's very much there's certainly stuff going on the top border here of his white makeup. It's quite yellow, and I don't think yellow is going to work in the translation, so I'm going with a sort of browny sort of, you know, skin tone pencil here. And some of it going on here as well. It may not sort of come out and work as intended, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. And this particular element is doing my head in. If I'm shading something black, then really I have to kind of go over it a couple of times to get that rich black. And I've been staring at it. It's been in, you know, in the corner of my eye, and I just want to sort that out. And this whole sort of foreground hand being blurry is going to be tricky as well. And you'll notice that there's a gap underneath his ear. That's the second finger. So I think probably in a couple of episodes' time, I'll be tackling the hand in its entirety. Just get that out of the way, make sure the colors are right. So I've decided to just sort of, you know, I've sweep over with the smudge pencil ready, just to give you an idea of the look I'm trying to go for, because it is very bright at the moment, and I kind of want it to sort of be more rounded here, so you can see that effect taking place already. And in all truthfulness, I'm not being as slow as I normally sort of like to be, I suppose. I am erring on the side of speed. And there's still a lot of definition to happen at the top, but that will happen. It's time to sharpen up the black pencil. Okay, I'm going to just sort of start mapping out his right eye now. I normally get the eyes done first, and traditionally with black and white pencils, you know, like graphite pencils, I always do the eyes first, work around it, do all the features next. But because this is color pencils, and I'm really kind of overly cautious about not smudging things. I work from left to right on the page, so it's not necessarily possible to do it how I used to do it. I find myself having to sort of switch up some tactics, but it's good, you know, it's good for me to kind of rethink things and plan them out better. I made a slight error there with the underside of the eye. I'm a perfectionist. But honestly, you know, if you are starting out and doing art for yourself, then really there's no better way than just jumping in. You know, take inspiration from other people, of course, but I wouldn't, you know, unless you really need to know, I wouldn't take classes or anything. But that's just coming from me, you know. A lot of people say that I'm naturally able to do it, and I don't really know what the issue is because I'm just copying what I see. You know, it's like I'm memorizing the shape and the pattern of everything and just emulating it, really. So it always makes me laugh when people say, oh, I can't draw, I can't do it. It's like what you mean to say is you don't have the time or the patience for it, because really that's all it takes. And, you know, look, I've been sitting here recording this for, you know, it's coming up to the 30-minute mark now, and we've done quite a lot already. We've moved on. So if you really want to do art, then do it. So we're just sort of, at the moment, we're just sort of roughly shading out some of the grey areas of the right eye, because I know that I'm going to be going over it with some blue and then some black, like on his left side. So just thought I'd throw some of that in. Finishing off the definition of the ear now as well. And that will be the end of the episode pretty much. So if you like what you see, you know what to do. It is worth giving it a chance. You do get sent the original if you want it. If you don't want to give me your address, then that's absolutely fine. You can, you know, you can settle with a digital copy. I will send you one. But if your, you know, your chosen subject is picked, then it will be most likely showcased on the channel. You can request for it not to be showcased if you like. There's no real rule set to say that it has to be documented. So if you desperately don't want any video sort of production of the sketch, then say so, and I'll quite happily do it without videoing it, you know. I never really mention names. I don't really, you know, unless you know, you're not bothered by it. And even if I do, I never sort of, you know, mention the surname. It's always just first name. So there's, you know, I am basically concerned about privacy and other people's privacy and respect and all that kind of thing. So you really don't have to worry about any of that. If you are worried, then I do all of my stuff for free, and you know, I'm in a good position financially. I'm in a very lucky position, and long may that last. So give it a go, you know, give it a shot. I am booked up until probably about January at the moment, and I've got some big plans happening for next year. As I have already mentioned, I'm sure. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode. And in the next one, we shall be finishing off the upper side of his head, and then we're going to be moving on to the lower side and then sorting out the hand, getting that out of the way. But until then, I'll see you later, everyone. Have a good one.